guys, so today's top 5 Wednesday video is top 5 books that made you cry. I don't cry very often in books. There are a couple that I have actually cried in. I get emotional, but I don't cry, if that makes sense. So yeah, I actually had a really hard time coming up with 5 books, but I will get to it. So starting with one of the books that made me cry, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is really sad. I've cried both times I've read it. Like, not... I should stipulate. I didn't, like, ugly sob. I just kind of teared up a little bit. That's my version of crying when reading or watching movies. I don't, like, get super emotional. But yes, this is a really sad book. There are some issues I have with this book. I've been reading a lot of, like, not anti-John Green books, but like reasons why this book is problematic and all kinds of things, which I like to take into consideration, but it did actually make me feel things, so it is on this top 5 list. The next one is The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. This is not actually a sad book. However, spoiler alert, the dog dies in the end, and it's the worst thing in the world. I get really emotional when animals die. Like, really, because humans I can deal with. If you're gonna die in my book, that's fine. Yeah, but animals, oh my god, especially because I have a golden retriever, and this wasn't a golden retriever that died, but I am really emotionally attached to my dog, so anytime it mentions like animals dying, I get really upset. Yeah, so they like alluded to this the entire way through. They're like, there are coyotes, and you never see the coyotes. Look, there's this big issue with coyotes in this town. And then in the end, the dog defends the main character from the coyote. The dog's name is Cooper. I don't actually remember. Oh, Ezra. Ezra is the main character's name. It says it right on the back. That tells you how much more emotionally invested I am in the dog than the person, but I know the dog's name over the main character's name. But yeah, the dog ends up dying because he saves the main character's life from a coyote attack. And I'm sitting in the York University Library with my friends in the morning, like, we're supposed to be studying, but I totally was reading this instead, and I just started, like, you know, little tears were coming out, and they're like, Alicia, what's wrong? I'm like, the dog died. So yes, this book made me cry, in actual fact, in public. Screw you, Robin Schneider. This book didn't make me cry, but it made me feel things, and it is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is the story of a young boy who is dealing with his mother's terminal cancer. Anything that has a parent dying at a young age will generally affect me, and I try and avoid them. I didn't actually know what this was about before I started reading. Just because, and might be a bit of an overshare, but my dad passed away when I was 17, so I'm like, was in and out of the hospital for pretty much my entire teenage years up until his death. So dealing with terminal illness and parent death, I can really empathize with, so this made me feel all kinds of things. I didn't actually cry, but it made me feel things. Next up is Room by Emma Donoghue. If you know anything about this book, basically, it's about a woman who gets abducted. It's told through her 5-year-old son's perspective, and all he knows is the room that they are being held captive in. This is a really emotional book. A lot of people have some issues with it. They find the style really hard to get through because it is told from a 5-year-old perspective, which can be really frustrating at times when you're reading this, because the 5-year-old perspective only knows 4 walls, and his language skills and stuff are a little bit hard to grasp at times, but this was a really emotional read. And last but not least, Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carolyn Rivka Brunt. This deals with AIDS in the 80s and the stigma with AIDS, and being kind of a little bit awkward and not appropriate relationships with kids. It's not sexual relationships with kids. Basically the main character, June, this has been a while since I've read this. She's 14, her uncle passes away due to AIDS, and his, like, boyfriend, I don't want to say boyfriend, but this was before, you know, people could get married. So like his like life partner, who she'd never met up until this point because her mother blamed his life partner for his death and his illness and everything. They start to develop a relationship, like a friendship, which she has to keep from her parents, which is why it's kind of a problematic relationship. But it's really interesting. It explores a lot of really good themes. I do highly recommend this book. It's been a while since I read it. I think I read it last year, but I really, really enjoyed this. And it is very emotional. It deals with, you know, feeling like an outsider, not really having anybody to talk to, you know, sibling relationships, family relationships. It's a really interesting look at the stigma of AIDS in the 80s, because this is set in 1987. But yeah, so I highly recommend this. It did make me feel things. So that is my top 5 books that made me cry / feel things. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a robot sometimes, but you know. What books have like emotionally touched you? I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase that. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys on Friday with my Friday reads. Bye.